Okay, I want to talk about Voice Record Pro because it's a super well featured app and it does a lot of really advanced stuff super well. And then does one thing really inefficiently, and that's file transfer. But we'll talk about that in a second. Cool, let's go ahead and launch the app. If it's your first time launching the app, then you'll go through, I think, 3 setup stages. It's like allowing access to the microphone, asking whether or not you want apps to or ads to track you, and then calibrating the audio engine. It's pretty easy setup. Eventually, you'll land on this screen. So this is just going to be your list of files that you've recorded. If you haven't recorded anything, then you won't have anything here. But to get started, let's go ahead and hit record. Cool, and then that brings us to this 2-tab page. We have presets and advanced, and we want to live in the advanced screen. We don't want to deal with the presets at all. They're all sort of basic. If we're using this advanced program, then we want to use these advanced features. So let's run through some of the things here. Right at the top, we've got record format. We want to be in WAV PCM. That's a lossless, uncompressed format. Some of the other formats that they have are MP3. What else have we got? AAC, that's high quality compressed. These settings are basically where we want to be. We want to be at 48,000 samples per second, and we want a bit depth of 24, and then channels is up to you. This is a quality setting, so 48,000 samples a second and 24 bits for bit depth. That's the quality we want. But if you see down here, we have estimated file size is 17 megabytes per second. So you can set these higher. Actually, let's drop down just so we have like some sort of common foundation here. So a sample rate of 44.1 at 16 bits, that's CD quality. CD quality is about 10 megabytes per second. A good trade-off between high quality and file size is this setting here that I would recommend. 48,000 samples per second at 24 bits. But you can definitely pop this up. I mean, this guy will crank all the way up to, I think, 96,000 samples per second at 32 bits. And you can see that we've more than quadrupled our estimated file size. That's fine. It's just not necessary for what we're doing. So 24 bits at 48,000 samples per second is perfect. Now for channels, stereo just means that you have a left right, and then the other option is mono, where both ears sound the same instead of having a discrete left channel and right channel. You know, the built-in microphones on this phone, the iPhone SE, the original, they're not super complex. And so if we're going to record a stereo field with discrete left and right channels, the microphones are just right next to each other, so it's not going to sound super immersive. That being said, I think if I was going to record dialogue that I didn't need any sort of, immersive experience for, I would leave it on mono. If I'm just doing dialogue tracks for my film. If I was going to record some sort of ambient sound, birds chirping or traffic or something, I would definitely go and push it into stereo. It's slightly more immersive. Cool. Scrolling down a little bit, we don't need to deal with any of this stuff. This is more like silence detection is like if you're recording a lecture and you don't want to record the quiet parts in it. Safety category is just how it handles saving files, like where it's getting saved to. And then record engine, we definitely want that to be on advanced. So those are the settings for the file format. Let's go ahead and move forward to the next thing that I really like about this app, and it's the ability to set your input gain. And so we're going to click on this little bar graph looking thing that's just to the left of the start button. Now we're hearing the built-in microphones on the iPhone. They're picking up my voice now. Cool, so the first thing you'll notice is that we have like a little volume meter. Yours might look sort of different. You can change the graphic representation of the volume meter just by tapping on it. We have these sort of digital bars bouncing up and down. We have the actual waveform, so if I can get quiet. And if I get loud, you can see the waveform responding accordingly. Tap that again. Then you can also use this to tune an instrument. And if you tap it again, then you come back to this. An interesting thing to note about the volume meter on Voice Record Pro is that the sweet spot you want to hit is just around 0. So not negative, not positive. 0. And what they do is, and I'll show you this in a second when we hop over into Premiere or whatever editing program you want to use later on. If you hit 0, that's a level of recording the signal that's decent. You're not going to have to boost it a whole bunch in post, but it still has a little bit of headroom so that if you go over 0 in this app, it's not going to clip immediately. So in this app, the sound will clip, it'll distort once it goes past 0 and past that like +3. And we're going to take a closer look at what all that means just right now. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can look a little bit closer at these settings. All right, cool. So the big thing here is that we have this input gain level, and I'm going to pop over to the digital, so we can see that a little bit more clearly. Okay, cool. So what you want to do is you want to adjust this input gain slider so that your levels are generally landing around 0, just the general peaks. So my peaks are a little shy of that now, so I'm going to talk, test, talk, test. So it looks like my peaks are landing a little bit high now. They're up here. Pull that down some. Test. Cool. That's right where we want to be. Let's see what it looks like if we flip over into the meter view instead of these bars. Test. That's looking pretty good. Like my voice is hitting 0. It's not going over, it's just kind of reaching up to 0. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play a constant tone on another phone and see if we can get a constant level reading at 0 so we can look at this later on in our editing app. So I'm going to start this. And I'm going to slide this so that the constant tone is hitting 0. Kind of let that record for a second. Great. Now we have kind of a cool sample to experiment with when we get into our editor. Okay, here we are in Adobe Premiere, and this is the bit of hum that I recorded on Voice Record Pro. And remember, we just recorded that hum so that the audio levels were landing right at 0. And so I'm going to play it here and keep an eye on our audio levels chart here. You can see what 0 on Voice Record Pro translates into on audio levels for Premiere. So I'm going to play the hum. And you can see that we're landing right around 10, -10. So that is a perfect level. -12, -10. That's a perfect level to have your audio coming in at. There's a little bit of headroom in case your subject gets a little bit louder. You won't clip the sound. You won't distort the sound at all. So yeah, recording on Voice Record Pro, anywhere between -6 to 0, -5 to 0, that's the perfect sweet spot to record sounds. Doing that made my voice a little crispy, so I'm going to pull this down a little bit. Great. So now we've set our input gain. So the sound source that we're recording, in this case it's my voice, in your case it's going to be tons of different things. We want those levels generally peaking around 0. Really anywhere between 5 and 0, -5 and 0 is going to be totally great. If we look here, it's represented slightly different. We got -6 and 0. Just somewhere in that range is going to be totally fine. Cool. There's a couple other options that we have in this app that are super awesome. If we look here, the input source is the iPhone microphone, and this is going to be device specific. Not every smartphone is going to have all these microphones, but there's actually a bunch of different mics on this iPhone, and it's actually a pretty old iPhone, so the newer iPhones might be even better. But we have a few different positions, so I'm going to go down to... We have bottom, which is the microphones down here. We have front, which is not the microphones down here. There's actually a microphone up here. And then we have back, which is actually a microphone back here. So there's actually a bunch of different microphone positions that you can set, and it's really important that you know which one you're recording on, because like I said, we really want the microphone to be as close as possible to the sound source. So if you're pointing the microphone down here towards your sound source, maybe somebody talking, but you've got this set on back, then you're going to do a very poor job of recording ideal audio. The other cool thing that we have is that we have different types of polarity for the way that the microphone picks up sound. So omnidirectional, let me punch in a little bit here. So omnidirectional just means that it picks up sound all around in the same way. But for the front mic, we have another option. We have cardioid, which means that it's picking up sound in a linear fashion straight from the front microphone. So if we set this to cardioid, that means that it's more sensitive coming straight out from the front of the mic and less sensitive to the sides and behind the mic. For back, we also have omnidirectional, the microphone back here, but we can change that to subcardioid, which is right between cardioid and omnidirectional. So it's a stronger pickup pattern back here, and then kind of less pickup pattern in front of the phone. And then for the bottom mics, we only have one option, is omnidirectional, and it's picking up sound all around the phone, kind of with the same sensitivity. Cool. Well, once you've got your options all sorted out, and you'll probably only have to do this once per scene, unless characters or your subject that you're recording are shifting around really dramatically. But once you get your options all figured out, then go ahead and hit the check mark. And we're brought back to this screen here with our format options. But we've already checked our levels, we've adjusted our input gain, and so now to record, we just hit start. And now we're actually recording. You can see the record light is blinking. Up here is no longer flashing level check. This is a real recording. It's writing the file to your phone. Yeah. We still have all the options that we looked at earlier. So if you realize that your input gain is a little bit too loud or a little bit too quiet, you can make that adjustment on the fly. So if you want to turn up the thing you're recording, you can see I've been turning up my voice here. If say once you start recording, your subject is actually too loud and they get too excited, you can turn them down while you're recording. You do have the different views available to you. And you even have the different microphone placement and polarities available to you still. And then if now that you're recording, I would highly recommend that you always leave audio monitor on so you can actually hear what you're recording. If you turn that off or you take your headphones off, you might not realize that there's some unwanted sound coming into the mix. So it's just always good to leave your headphones on while you're recording, monitoring your recording. Great. When you're done recording, you would just hit stop. And you're brought to this screen here, which has a huge list of options on what you can do with this audio file. You could play it, you could send it by email, by SMS, you could save it to your photo album, save it directly to Google Drive. You got to log in, for all these different services. You got to log in, of course. It'll actually upload it to a website that Voice Record Pro hosts. You can set Wi-Fi download. Your phone turns into basically a Wi-Fi hotspot that you would log into on your computer and then download the files that way. This, I think, is the easiest. Activities and AirDrop. You can just AirDrop it to yourself that way. And then way down at the bottom, we've got delete if you want to. But this is just on a single file-by-file basis, and this is maybe just one take during your recording session. And so to get started on the next recording session, the next take, you would just hit record. You're back to this 2-tab window. You can either set your levels, or you could just hit start to start the next recording. So I'm going to hit start. Start recording, blah, 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 blah. I'm recording. I'm going to hit stop. Cool. Brings us to this same thing. I want to record the next sound, so hit record. You could also just hit record here again to start recording. This button here allows you to add notes live. That would be a bad idea if you're recording from the built-in mics, because all this stuff sort of picks up sound, but kind of handy maybe. All right. Great. And then say we're done. We've recorded all that we're going to record for this session. So I'm going to hit back. And here we are presented with our list of files again. And so now we finally come to the point where Voice Record Pro sort of stumbles. This is the one thing I really don't like about it as opposed to the built-in Voice Record Memos app, is that you have to transfer your files either one by one via AirDrop, or you could batch them, but it's just slightly more convoluted. You can send files one by one if you tap it, and on a one by one file basis, you can go and set up like AirDrop or whatever. But I would like to batch my files over to my computer. It's going to be much easier. So if you hit the little cloud icon, then there's a bunch of different sort of cloud-based services that you can log into yourself and transfer files that way. So I'm just going to use Google Drive. So I'm going to tap Google Drive, say export with Google Drive. And I've already logged into my Google Drive folder via the app. Obviously, if this is your first time, then you're going to have to do that. I want to select all my files. So I'm going to hit this check mark down here. All my files are selected now. And you would think it's this arrow, but it's actually not that arrow. It's this one down here, Export Items. So I'm going to tap Export Items. And it's now uploading all of my recordings to a folder that it's made called Voice Record Pro in my Google Drive. Cool, it's done. I'm going to close that. The other thing that you could do that's kind of interesting, still not super fast, is if you hit the gear icon for settings, and if you scroll down to, it's kind of a weird spot that it's here, but Wi-Fi download, if you tap that, then this is your phone actually becoming its own sort of web host. It gives you the details of where you got to go. So there's this HTTP 192.168- whatever. If you type that into your browser, and we're going to do that in a second, and I'll show you what that looks like. But unfortunately, that forces you to download the files one at a time. So it's not ideal either. Okay, I'm going to enter the web address that Voice Record Pro gave me for when I made my phone a web host. And this is what it looks like. Here's the different recordings I've made. You can see the one that I made notes on. There's notes right there. But again, this is less than ideal. It's handy, we can play and stuff, but you still have to download them one by one. There is no batch download. So that's why I would prefer the Google Drive route, because then you can download the entire folder of sounds all at once. Okay, let's spin over to the computer and take a look at that voice record upload batch in our Google Drive folder. So here we are in Google Drive. I don't need to do a tutorial on how to use Google Drive, but here's all the recordings that we uploaded. This is along with some older recordings. So it's a good idea to stay organized, and I would clean these out with every download just so it's easier to keep track of everything. But yeah, you'll do, here's the Voice Record Pro folder in my Google Drive that the app made by itself. I'm just going to say download, and it's going to do the usual like zipping and then downloading it as a zipped file. So it's not super efficient. This is the fastest way that I've come up with downloading, and this is the only thing I don't like about the app, is that it's not super efficient getting the files off the phone and onto your computer in a workable way. This is the smoothest I've found. And then you would open that zip and you would have your audio recordings. And I would definitely, once you open these folders, make sure that you rename them and stay super organized. I would name them by project, maybe by date. It all depends on how you want to be organized. Okay, the other thing we got to sort of keep track of is we are, slowly filling our device with recordings, and so we've got to clear them off. I would clear them off once I feel safe about having them on my computer. And, if you have the space in your Google Drive account, you could just leave them up there or maybe organize them differently so you don't get confused there. I think just stay organized as best you can. But it is important to clear space off of our recording device, our phone. And so here we are, here's our list of files. I'm going to click the check mark button, top center, and I'm going to highlight them all, or check mark them all. So I'm going to click this bottom right corner check mark. That's highlight them all. Then I'm going to click the trash can icon in the bottom left. I'll tap that. It says, do I want to delete all these records? Yes, I want to delete them, and they're gone. And I'm ready to make some new recordings, or however else I want to use the app. If you need to get them back, you can go to this gear icon, and then here's restore deleted items. There's all the ones I just deleted. I can restore them one by one if I want, or I can select them all and restore them. If you need to delete them sooner, Voice Record Pro gives you the control over how quickly to permanently delete deleted items. It is under Settings, under General, and it's this top item, Purge Deleted. So I think by default it's set to 48 hours. So if I had just left those in the deleted trash can in the app for 48 hours, then they will be permanently deleted. If you need space sooner, then you can have it so it instantly erases them permanently. I would maybe hold off unless you desperately need the space. Just be super sure that you've got your recordings transferred over to your computer before you permanently delete them. I'm going to leave mine set to 48 hours. All right.